And I felt like I was good at math. I was good at numbers. I felt like it was easy to make sense of 1 + 2 is 3. That's just an easy example. But if you plug the right numbers into the right formula, you get the right answer. We talked about it Wednesday night. If you use the right tool for the right job, it makes life simpler. And with math, if 1 + 2 is 3, you were able to work backwards, and 3 - 2 is 1. You were able to check your work. And it wasn't that way with English class because sometimes you put a comma there and sometimes you put a semicolon. Sometimes you don't have to put anything. You just throw the word "and" in there and it all makes sense. But then somehow, I always got it wrong when I got my papers back. I don't understand. And so I had to start using some tools when it came to my reading process. I had to start using pictures. Now, this is an elementary school where I started using picture books, but I had to put myself in the story and begin to picture it. And when I read the Bible, oftentimes I have to do that. I have to put myself in the story so I can begin to understand what it is going on. How did Abraham feel when God told him to sacrifice your son? But God, you told me I'm going to be the father of nations. I'm going to be the father of thousands, and this is my only offspring. I'm 110 years old. My wife is 90. I'm going to be the father of nations, and you want me to slay my son? I don't get that. I don't understand it. And so I started to reread it, and I put myself in Abraham's shoes, and then it reads, when I reached the place that God had told me about, I built an altar. I built an altar there, and I arranged the wood on it. It's about to get real. I bound my son Isaac, and I laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then I reached for my knife, and I stretched to slay my son. There's no doubt in my mind. The Bible doesn't say it, but if you put yourself in that situation, there's no doubt in my mind that this is by far the largest and the most painful stretching that Abraham has ever went through. I don't have the physique yet. Physique? I don't have the body. I don't have the body yet. I'm getting there. But I'm trying to go to the gym the other day, and the other day I was stretching, and Crystal's like, well, let's see how far you can stretch. And she takes my legs, and I'm like, dude, that hurts. I'm not supposed to stretch like that. Abraham's not supposed to stretch like that. He took his own knife, and he reached up. Now, I've never been in a situation where God has told me to physically sacrifice an offspring of mine, but I have been in a situation where I felt like I had to give one up. And I've shared this story in detail in here in an open forum, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail this morning, but about 3 years ago, Crystal gave birth to our firstborn daughter. And we spent 12 of the longest, most restless days of our lives in a hospital in Miami, Florida. And after those 12 days, after the doctors had done all the surgeries that they can do, they used all the medicine that they can do, they tested her blood as much as they can do. They said, we've reached the point where the best possible thing we can do is to turn off the machines that's circulating her blood, turn off the machines that's making her heart continue to beat, and to see if everything that we've done over the last 12 days is enough to keep her heart moving on its own. So with MJ in our arms, they turned off the machine. She gasped for her last breath, and she passed away. Abraham set out on his journey, and he grabbed the fire and the knife and the wood that God already had a plan in place to get him out of it. That when Abraham was heading up one side of the mountain, he set a ram on the other side. When Abraham is getting ready to go through the darkest, most hardest stretching in his life, that God already had a plan for the way out. Last story I'll share with you this morning. We have a 2-ton, 15-passenger van laying on top of a 150-pound Spencer frame that on any other afternoon, Pastor Randy, would have crushed him. And the passage says that when Abraham looked up, he saw the ram, and it was the ram that was already in place, ladies and gentlemen. It was the very thing that we had complained about all weekend. If there's one thing that I would have changed, it would have been the weather, because it's ruined the whole weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that it's the one thing that we were complaining about that God used, that there's no doubt in my mind that spared Spencer's life, because when that van landed on top of him, it didn't crush him. because the ground was so soggy. It was so muddy, it was so wet that when it landed on him, it just sunk in like Play-Doh. They took them both to the hospital. Spencer was more upset that they ripped open his jeans than he was about anything else. He said, I just bought those jeans this weekend. Mike is out doing cartwheels and saying, look at me, I can dance. Look at me, I can run. This is the very same thing that we were complaining about. If we would have just looked up, we realized the whole time that God already had it taken care of. This song, Good, Good Father, which was played at that Winterfest trip, reminds me of that He's a good God. And it doesn't matter what it is that I'm going through. It doesn't matter if God tells me to go and I don't know where the ground is beneath me, but if I take the step, that He'll make sure it's there. Because He's a good Father. It doesn't matter that if my trust box is broken, that God was inside of, and when it breaks, I feel like I've lost God. It doesn't matter because He's a good Father. It doesn't matter. He's already made a way. We're just so worried about the questions that come along with the command that we haven't seen it yet. Right after MJ passed, I remember thinking, I didn't deserve this. God, I've given my life to the ministry. My wife and I, we've moved halfway across the country. We've moved away from our friends. We've moved away from our family. I've done everything that you wanted me to do. I didn't realize that sometimes, Boo, the very reason that you go through things sometimes is not so we can understand why. It's so that I can help someone else. It's so that whenever I was preparing the hardwood floors for the nursery and when I was painting her walls and I never got to take her home, it was so when I met a man and he goes into court and he's going and expecting an adoption and he doesn't get to take that kid home. It's so I can be in that courtroom and I can say, it doesn't matter, I know you hurt. And while my pain might be different, I hurt too. So it doesn't matter what you're going through. Because if you hurt, I hurt. And yes, our pain is the different. Our circumstances are different. But the pain is just as real. I don't care if you lost a fish this morning and you're upset about it. Meet me in these altars right now. Don't wait. I'm not going to count down. There's no flashy show. Don't wait. Come. Right now. Don't wait.